A philosophical question I've been asking myself lately is this: should you bully children online if they're being annoying? Now, my initial gut answer that I would immediately hypothetically default to upon being asked is, oh, absolutely. And the first reason I would give is that it's just a great time. It's like playing a game with cheats active. I'm hella OP because I'm older and smarter. I can run circles around them in an argument. I can use pedantic insults that will still be effective because they haven't grown resilient to them yet. It's actually so fun to talk shit to someone in like the 11 to 14 range because you can just be like, oh yeah, your mom. What'd you say? Your mom. Sorry, bro, your mom's here. I gotta go. Now, I made sure to specify the if they're being annoying part because I do think an offense of some kind should be committed before you just declare open season on a small young mind. If I were being dishonest, I would say this is only okay to do in the most dire of circumstances, like if you find a kid in a voice chat just spouting off racial slurs or something. If I specified that, I think more people would agree that that kid in particular deserves to get roasted, but I'm not dishonest, so I'll just be upfront and say I would lose zero sleep over making fun of a kid who was just being loud or talking too much, or if they're a Minecraft stan. If you weigh the potential emotional scarring of trading insults with children against how much fun it is to do, it's way more fun for you than it is harmful for them. Now, I'm not a monster. I've never made anyone cry or anything, at least not kids. I don't think it's fun to do actual emotional damage to them, but as long as you're at the stage where they're fighting back, go nuts, I say. Nobody wants to point this out because it's very uncool to bring up, but comedy has gotten a lot less appropriate in recent years. And by that, I mean 99% of comedians on Earth are telling dick and tit jokes and overusing the F word. My mom is a very Christian woman, like the judgy, holier-than-thou kind when it comes to anything she doesn't like. The kind that hears a comedian say fuck or talk about sex, and if you're sitting there with her, you can just feel her disapproval suck all the energy out of the room, to the point where she'll walk out after 5 minutes. The kind who audibly says amen whenever a character on TV says something she agrees with, and the kind who audibly corrects them if they say something that doesn't first and foremost bring glory to God. A character on TV will say some shit like, the most powerful thing in the world is love, and she'll say out loud, Jesus is love, and in my head I'm like, who are you performing for? You can take a break and just watch TV. Both my parents are big church volunteers. They're there multiple times a week doing random stuff like cooking food and probably getting rebaptized every 5 minutes. They serve like they did something. It almost feels indentured sometimes, like God is a mafia boss and they owe him money. But it kind of is like that anyway, just instead of money, or I should say in addition to money from tithing and whatnot, they work for salvation. My biggest problem with most religions is the mandatory denigration of self that's required for you to be fully given over to your supposed creator. That without the Lord you're nothing, an unworthy cockroach, and you need a guy who's never once spoken to you to make you whole. You hear it in every worship song. You are my everything. I'm lost without you. Hey, try a map. Preferably one that doesn't reduce you to a broken husk of a man in its absence. It'd be one thing if the dude was actually around or projected his voice down from the heavens occasionally, instead of everyone having to be like, oh, I feel him in the trees, or please give me a sign, and then someone flushes a toilet and they're like, thank you, I understand, I need to flush something too. Like, get a grip, you're being weird. I don't mind people believing in something that betters their life and the lives of those around them through kindness or charity, but some of the eccentricities get tiptoed around and I don't like it. On the incredibly rare occasion I do get dragged to church, I notice peculiarities. First off, I think worship songs gotta go, and I mean all of them. The newest ones are always 10 years behind modern music trends, which is kind of funny. Like in 2030, you're gonna start hearing a bunch of whisper worship songs that sound like Billie Eilish's Bad Guy song. They're gonna be like, God, you're my rock. Oh, yes, you are. I'm a sinner. Guarantee you'll hear songs like that. If you listen to Christian music on the radio like my mom exclusively does, they just got to the Imagine Dragons era. Whenever the worship songs start up in church and everyone sings along, I scan the crowd, look for people who have their hands up, and make myself uncomfortable. I would be mortified if I lost myself in the vibe of a worship song that hard while other people were watching. One, because the music is so lame, and two, as an adult, you're supposed to have inhibitions in public. You're supposed to keep it in check. Watching 40-plus-year-olds psalm out with their palms out is towing the line of chaos. They're out of control. Church is BTS for geriatrics. I watched a guy once in the front row during the first worship song, hands weren't up, then a minute in, he put his right hand up, and then a minute later, he put both hands up. The hell's going on there? Dude had one hand up for the first chorus, then the second chorus came around, he was like, okay, I mean it this time. We're two-handed this chorus like a warhammer. Watch out, Lord, I'ma worship the fuck out of you. Church is just weird. It's always been weird, especially as a kid. You don't really know why you're going, but you know you have to wear your special Sunday clothes, even though one of God's most popular sayings is, "Come as you are." But your parents are like, "Well, you are this polo shirt and pair of khakis you'd never otherwise wear, so get dressed up nice, because half of this is just because we want you to look nicer than other people's kids in front of their parents." Everyone is extra nice at church because you feel like you're being watched by Big Brother. They all talk like they're wearing a wire, except they're trying to record themselves being Christ-like. "Oh, it's so nice to see you, Olivia," name I remembered. "And how is Bill? Remember last week you told me he was having some health troubles and I was listening intently with an unflinching smile on my face? Oh, he's getting better? That's great news to show overly visible relief towards. I made sure to keep him in my prayers. You can listen to the tapes if you don't believe me." Okay, long religious tangent over, back to comedy. I mentioned how it's been degenerating into degeneracy. On an individual level, I don't really care, but the reason I've been noticing is because there's been fewer and fewer specials I can actually show my mother and have her not stage a walkout. I have to pre-watch them now and make sure there isn't a 10-minute chunk about porn and masturbation or 7 minutes on the philosophical implications of a man coming on a woman's face. Even the cleaner comics will dip their toes in the waters of blue. One thing I've seen too many times now is the clean comedian who never swears, blowing the audience's mind and getting a round of applause just by finally doing it once. I watched Ellen do it, I watched Jim Gaffigan do it, and the first time you see it, you're like, hell yeah, break free from the shackles of public perception. And then you watch someone else do it, and you're like, alright, it's just a free one-time use tool now. And you wonder when the other ones are going to cash in that coupon. People want to see the guy that never swears say fuck. It's basically a form of pandering at this point, except you don't get to milk it because eventually you just won't be clean anymore and nobody will care. My mom says swearing is ignorance and likes to imply that you can't be intelligent while doing it, but I've made her mad enough in arguments that she's resorted to it before, so I don't know if I'd pretend to be on a higher plane of intellect there. People can swear and still have tremendous vocabularies. They can use cursing as a tool of their linguistic craft and still crochet a quality quilt of conversation. It just gets to the heart of things and conveys emotions more directly than flowery bullshit sometimes. I've been thinking about self-censorship lately. Recently in episodes 207 and 208 back to back, I told a bunch of purposely edgy jokes as part of a palate cleanser from the bad taste of self-censorship that had previously taken up some residence in my mouth. You really don't think it's happening to you until you look back on your thought process for some script writing in the past and remember all the times you deleted something you just typed and replaced it with something less controversial, or edit something out you approve of but no others won't. While I was editing one of my Elden Ring streams, there was a part where I talk about what I think the funniest words are, and I decided that the funniest word in the English language is hump, because I do honestly believe that, is fantastic, specifically as a verb, and its inclusion in related conversation is so awkward. Like, imagine you're with a girl and you're just like, "Can I hump you? Oh, you're gonna get humped, baby." No girl has ever moaned, "Oh yeah, hump me harder, daddy." Like, humping is what dogs do to your leg, not what people do to each other. And dry humping, although functionally surprisingly nice even for people who have had actual sex before, is just an unserious term altogether, and incorrect if you're doing it right. Nothing dry about it. Anyway, that's all well and good, but my second favorite word is retarded, and that word triggers a decent amount of regular people because in high school they took a pledge to not say the R word so as not to offend each other, regardless of how much any retarded people care, or even know enough to care. And if some of them do care, good for them, but them caring is not why regular people care. I don't think they consulted with the autistic ambassador to set up an altruistic accord. They just decided amongst themselves that they didn't like a medical term anymore and banished that shit so they could feel like good people for no earned reason. And now kids grow up scared of being labeled as bigots or ableists because those are monikers that come with the inherent debuff of dehumanization. Which is to say, if you're labeled a bigot or an ableist or a racist, sexist, homophobe, transphobe, any of them, everything is now permitted against you, because you are no longer an acceptable human being. Deplatforming is okay, doxing is okay, harassment okay, and violence is awesome. You either fight the cult, ignore it, or join it, and most kids don't have the self-assuredness to remain independent during those beginning stages. But so in the stream, I also mentioned retarded being my second choice for funniest word, and so when I went back to trim clips together for some edited ease of consumption, I reached that point and faced an inner dilemma of whether or not I wanted to cut that part out just to avoid avoid any potential backlash, even if it was small and inconsequential as it usually is for me. It doesn't particularly add anything content-wise other than some additional insight into what I was talking about, but cutting it out would inescapably be pure capitulation to the invisible forces of the content police. And I didn't like feeling like I was preemptively bending the knee to people who don't matter to me. So I left it in, good for me and all that, and nobody cared. Not a single comment about it yet. My established audience is pretty cool at this point, but since I'm in the midst of a new 10K influx of subscribers, I thought some of them might get riled up. But if they do, who cares, you know? There's politically G-rated content all over the internet for them, thanks in part to people like them making an ironically selfish fuss over stuff they had to be told to care about. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino. Watch all my videos in a drunken stupor, and I'll see you guys next time.